The vast darkness of space lit up as the Dominion fleet exited hyperspace. Hundreds of warships, their hulls gleaming with strange metals unknown to Earth science, formed a perfect attack formation at the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Thomas Grant stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's flagship. His weathered face remained calm as the massive alien armada appeared on the view screen. The bridge crew fell silent, some holding their breath. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel," reported Lieutenant Davis, her fingers flying over the communications console. Grant nodded. "Put it through." The view screen flickered, revealing a tall, gray-skinned alien. Its four eyes blinked in sequence, and its mouth was filled with teeth that resembled polished metal. "I am Commander Vex of the Galactic Dominion," the alien said, its translator producing perfect English. "Your species is unknown to us, but your planet has been chosen for integration into our empire. Surrender now and become our subjects, or face extinction." Grant said nothing, studying the alien commander. "Perhaps you do not understand," Vex continued. "The Dominion has conquered over 300 species across 12,000 star systems. We have waged war for 10 millennia and have never known defeat. Your primitive vessels and technology cannot hope to resist us." The bridge remained silent. Lieutenant Davis glanced nervously at Admiral Grant, who finally leaned forward. "Commander Vex," Grant said, his voice steady and calm. "We have a saying on Earth: know your enemy. It seems you failed to follow this simple advice." Vex's upper eyes narrowed. "Explain." "You say you've conquered hundreds of species, but you've never met humans before." Grant's lips formed a thin smile. "That was your first mistake." "Your arrogance is amusing," Vex replied. "Many species believe they are special until they face our might." Grant shook his head. "This isn't arrogance. This is a warning." He stood up, his tall frame casting a shadow across the bridge. "You should run, Commander. You really should run." Laughter erupted from the alien's metal-lined mouth. "Run. From you. Your entire defense fleet consists of fewer than 50 warships. We outnumber you 10 to 1. "Numbers don't tell the whole story," Grant said. "Humans are different from the other species you've conquered. We didn't evolve in peace. We weren't united when we reached the stars." Grant walked closer to the screen. "For most of our history, we fought ourselves. We killed each other over land, resources, beliefs, or simply because we could. War is in our blood, Commander. It's what we know." Vex's laughter died. "All species have conflict." "Not like us," Grant replied. "Not like humans. We've had thousands of wars just in our recorded history. We've built weapons that could destroy our own planet multiple times over. We've fought in deserts, in jungles, on mountains, under oceans. We've mastered the art of killing." He paused, letting his words sink in. "So I'm giving you one chance. Take your fleet and leave our space. Because if you start this war, we will finish it." Silence fell across both bridges. Then Vex's metal teeth clicked together in what might have been a smile. "No species has ever dared speak to the Dominion this way," the commander said. "I will display your head in the Emperor's trophy room for such insolence." The alien turned to someone off-screen. "Prepare the first wave." "So be it," Grant said. "Remember, Commander, we warned you to run." The transmission ended. Grant turned to his crew, their faces tense but determined. "Sound battle stations," he ordered, "and send the signal to activate Operation Hidden Knife." Alarms blared across the ship as the crew rushed to their posts. Outside, the massive Dominion fleet began to move toward Earth, unaware that hundreds of stealth vessels were already positioned behind them, waiting for the signal. The first war between humanity and the Galactic Dominion had begun. Jack Miller hunched over his terminal in the dimly lit intelligence center beneath Earth's Pacific Defense Complex. His eyes burned from staring at screens for 18 hours straight, but he couldn't stop now. Not when he had just found something this important. "Admiral, you need to see this," Jack called as Grant entered the room. The Admiral walked over, his uniform wrinkled from days without rest. "What have you found?" Jack pointed to the biochemical analysis of the Dominion soldiers. "Their biology. It's their weakness." He highlighted several sections of the report. Their species evolved on a world with almost no pathogens. Their immune systems are incredibly basic. Grant's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "Yes, sir. The common cold could devastate their ranks, and we have much worse in our biological archives." A thin smile crossed Grant's face. "Good work, Miller. Get this to the science division immediately." Across the complex, Dr. Anna Wright led a team examining captured Dominion technology. They had managed to secure a damaged fighter during the first skirmish near Mars orbit. "The design makes no sense," she muttered, examining the ship's power core. "It's like they've never had to worry about efficiency or redundancy." Her assistant Tom looked up from his workstation. "What do you mean?" Anna pointed to the engine schematic. "No backup systems. No fail-safes. Their tech is advanced, but it's designed as if they've never faced an enemy who could seriously challenge them." She stood up straight, realization dawning on her face. They've never had to adapt. They've been the dominant force for so long that they've forgotten how to innovate under pressure. "And innovation under pressure is humanity's specialty," Tom replied. Meanwhile, Admiral Grant had called an emergency war council. Representatives from Earth's most strategic military minds gathered around a large table. General Wilson from North American Command, Colonel Petrova from the Eurasian Alliance, Commander O'Keefe from the African Federation, and several others. "The Dominion has never faced a species like us," Grant began. "They're used to enemies who fight conventionally or surrender quickly." He activated a holographic display showing Earth's bloody history. Images flashed by. Ancient battles with spears and arrows, medieval sieges, world wars, guerrilla conflicts, and modern combat zones. "Humanity has been forged in the fire of constant conflict," General Wilson said. "We've mastered every form of warfare imaginable." Colonel Petrova nodded. "And we've learned to adapt faster than any enemy can predict." Commander O'Keefe leaned forward. "The Dominion fights like an empire that's never been threatened. Their formations are textbook. Their tactics haven't changed in centuries." "Exactly," Grant agreed. "They expect us to either meet them in conventional battle or surrender. They don't understand that humans have developed thousands of ways to fight against superior forces." He brought up a new hologram showing the Dominion fleet. "Their ships communicate on predictable frequencies. Their commanders follow rigid protocols. Their supply lines are exposed. They're fighting the way you fight when you've never lost," Wilson observed. Grant nodded grimly. "And we're going to fight the way you fight when you've spent your entire existence struggling to survive." He outlined the plan that was forming. Guerrilla strikes, biological warfare, psychological operations, targeting command structures instead of fighting front lines, using Earth's multiple biomes as defensive zones that would be alien to the Dominion troops. "We won't win with brute force," Grant concluded. "We'll win because we understand what they don't. War isn't about who has the biggest fleet or the most advanced weapons. It's about who's willing to do whatever it takes to survive." Petrova finished. As the council adjourned, Grant received word that the Dominion was launching their first major ground assault on the Mars colony. "Let them come," he said quietly. "They're about to learn why they should have run when we warned them." The red dust of Mars swirled in the thin atmosphere as the Dominion landing craft descended. Commander Vex watched from orbit with satisfaction. This was standard conquest procedure. Take the outer colony first, establish a foothold, then advance to the main planet. It had worked 300 times before. "Troops are deploying in standard conquest pattern," Commander reported his second-in-command. "The human defenses appear minimal." Vex's metal teeth clicked together in a smile. "As expected. Begin the countdown to victory announcement." On the Martian surface, the Dominion troops moved forward in perfect formation. 6,000 soldiers, arranged in precise geometric patterns that had overwhelmed countless civilizations. Their armor gleamed under the distant sun as they approached the main colony dome. "Enemy forces approaching Checkpoint Alpha," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from her hidden bunker beneath the Martian surface. "No deviation from predicted path." Colonel James Foster nodded. He commanded Mars Defense Force, a small unit compared to Earth's military, but they had prepared for this moment. Wait until they reach the killing zone. Then spring the trap. The Dominion forces reached the colony's main entrance. They found it undefended, with doors standing open. Their commander ordered the first wave inside, following conquest protocol perfectly. Foster pressed a button on his command console. Now, the Martian ground beneath the Dominion troops suddenly collapsed. Thousands of soldiers plummeted into massive sinkholes filled with a sticky substance that hardened on contact with their armor. Those who avoided the traps faced a new horror. The colony's ventilation system had been repurposed to pump Earth's atmosphere into enclosed spaces, flooding the area with oxygen levels toxic to Dominion biology. "What is happening?" Vex demanded as frantic reports came in. "Where are the human defenders?" As if in answer, hundreds of small attack vehicles burst from hidden underground tunnels, swarming the disoriented Dominion forces. They didn't engage directly but struck and retreated, forcing the aliens to chase them into more traps. "Sir, they're not fighting according to any known combat doctrine," Vex's tactical officer reported, confusion in his voice. "They're everywhere and nowhere." On the surface, Foster led a squad through a secret passage. "Remember, don't try to win by force. Hit and run. Make them chase you." His soldiers nodded. They wore lightweight armor, nothing like the heavy protection of the Dominion troops. But they moved faster, knew the terrain, and most importantly, they fought like humans had fought for millennia. Adapting, improvising, surviving. The battle raged for hours. Dominion commanders attempted to implement standard responses, but each time they adjusted their formation, the humans changed tactics completely. When the Dominion deployed heavy weapons, the humans disappeared underground. When they sent in specialists, they found booby traps that seemed designed specifically for their biology. "Impossible," Vex muttered as he watched half his landing force become combat ineffective in just 6 hours. "How are they predicting our responses?" In truth, the humans weren't predicting anything. They were simply fighting as they always had. Chaotically, desperately, and with a creativity born from thousands of years of conflict. The turning point came when Foster's team captured a Dominion command vehicle. Instead of destroying it, they reprogrammed its communications to broadcast false orders, sending confused Dominion troops directly into the heaviest human defenses. By the time the Martian sun set, the unthinkable had happened. The Dominion forces were in full retreat. In orbit, Vex stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. 70% losses, equipment abandoned, command structure compromised. "Order the remaining forces to return to the fleet," he finally said, his voice hollow, "and prepare a full report for High Command." As his subordinate left, Vex recalled Admiral Grant's warning. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something unfamiliar: doubt. On Mars, Foster watched the Dominion ships depart. He activated his comlink to Earth. "Admiral Grant, Mars holds." They ran. Grant's voice came back, clear and determined. "Good. Now we show them why they should have kept running." Commander Vex stood before the Dominion High Council, his posture rigid despite the shame burning within him. The 7 council members stared down from their elevated platform, their expressions showing a mixture of disbelief and fury. "You lost an entire invasion force to a primitive species." Grand Counselor Drex's voice echoed through the chamber. "In the 10,000-year history of our empire, no commander has ever suffered such a defeat." Vex lowered his gaze. "The humans, they don't fight like other species. They use tactics we've never encountered." "Excuses," hissed another counselor. "The Dominion does not accept failure." The Grand Counselor raised his hand for silence. "Commander Vex, you are relieved of duty. Grand Marshal Krell will assume command of the human pacification effort. From the shadows stepped a towering figure. Krell was a legendary military leader, responsible for crushing the last major rebellion against the Dominion centuries ago. His body bore the scars of 1,000 battles, and his eyes held no mercy. "The humans will learn the cost of defiance," Krell said, his voice like grinding stone. "I will deploy the planet killers." Even Vex looked alarmed. The planet killers. But the Emperor's directive is to capture worlds intact for. "The directive has changed," Krell interrupted. "This species has damaged Dominion prestige. They must be eradicated as an example to others." Back on Earth, Admiral Grant received the intelligence with a grim expression. The massive energy signatures approaching Earth could only mean one thing. "They're escalating," he told the War Council. "Our sources confirm they're bringing in weapons capable of planetary destruction." General Wilson leaned forward. "Then we proceed with Phase 2. Grant nodded. "Begin the evacuations, move all civilians to the underground shelters, and launch Operation Spiderweb." Across Earth, billions of people moved into vast underground complexes built during the last World War. These shelters, originally designed to protect humanity from itself, would now protect them from alien invaders. Meanwhile, small teams of elite soldiers boarded stealth ships. Each team carried specialized equipment and a simple mission: infiltrate Dominion supply lines and disrupt them by any means necessary. Major Alex Reed led one such team. Their target: a Dominion refueling station at the edge of the solar system. "Remember," Reed told his 5 soldiers as their stealth ship approached, "we're not trying to destroy it. We're turning it against them." They boarded the station undetected, moving silently through the corridors. The Dominion guards never expected an attack here, so deep in their secure territory. When they reached the central control room, Reed's tech specialist, Cooper, went to work. "Their systems have no real security," Cooper whispered as his fingers flew across the alien controls. "They've never needed it before." Within minutes, Cooper had reprogrammed the station to dispense contaminated fuel that would cause Dominion ships to fail at precisely the wrong moment. Similar operations occurred throughout the solar system. Humans used their small size and the Dominion's overconfidence against them. They didn't try to win by direct confrontation. They poisoned the well, salted the Earth, and disappeared before the enemy knew they were there. Grand Marshal Krell watched in mounting rage as his supply ships began reporting mysterious failures. His initial attack wave had been delayed by equipment malfunctions, communication disruptions, and inexplicable navigation errors. "Find these saboteurs," he roared at his subordinates. "I want every human agent captured and executed." But the humans were ghosts, striking where least expected and vanishing before they could be caught. On Earth, the scientists worked day and night, reverse engineering captured Dominion weapons. What took the aliens centuries to develop, humans improved upon in weeks, driven by the desperate need to survive. Admiral Grant received reports from the front lines with grim satisfaction. The Dominion's massive fleet was bogged down, plagued by equipment failures and supply problems. "We can't match their firepower," he told his officers, "but we can make every step they take toward Earth cost them dearly." When Krell finally launched his planet killer toward Earth, he was confident of victory. But as the massive weapon approached its target, human scientists activated their newest creation, a field that turned the weapon's energy back upon itself. The resulting explosion destroyed a third of Krell's fleet. For the first time in its history, the Dominion knew fear. Dr. Anna Wright stared at the biological agent contained in the sealed chamber before her. After weeks of work, her team had created something that could change the course of the war. "Is it ready?" Admiral Grant asked, standing at her side in the high-security laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. "Yes," she replied, her voice steady despite the weight of what they had created. "We've engineered a virus that targets the Dominion's specific biology. It won't kill them immediately, but it will weaken their immune systems and reduce their combat effectiveness by 80%. Grant studied the innocent-looking vial. And it won't harm humans or other species. No, it's designed exclusively for Dominion physiology. She paused. Admiral, once we release this, there's no going back. This is biological warfare on a scale we've never attempted. They gave us no choice, Grant replied grimly. They'd brought planet killers to our doorstep. In orbit around Jupiter, Grand Marshal Krell surveyed what remained of his once magnificent fleet. The humans had bloodied them badly, using tactics no civilized species would consider. They attacked supply lines instead of facing his armada directly. They used deception, sabotage, and guerrilla warfare instead of honorable combat. Status report, he demanded. His second-in-command hesitated. We've lost 30% of our fleet, sir. Another 20% is combat ineffective due to mechanical failures or crew illness. The humans continue to evade our main forces while striking our support vessels. Krell slammed his fist against the command console. They are primitives. How are they doing this? Sir, our intelligence suggests they're using their own history against us. Apparently, before they unified, humans fought thousands of wars against each other. They've developed unconventional tactics. Krell turned to stare at the distant blue planet. Prepare the command ship. I will lead the next assault personally. Meanwhile, Captain Lisa Reed led a small team on what everyone knew was likely a suicide mission. Their stealth ship approached the Dominion command vessel, using the debris from previous battles as cover. Remember, she told her 5 volunteers, we have one objective. Deploy the package at the Environmental Control Center. Nothing else matters. They wore specially designed suits that masked their biosignatures from Dominion sensors. Each carried a small container of Dr. Wright's virus. 2 minutes to contact, the pilot announced. Reed looked at her team. The best Earth had to offer, each willing to die to protect their home. It's been an honor, she said simply. Their ship attached to the Dominion vessel's hull without detection. Using cutting tools, they created an entrance and slipped inside. The massive ship was like a city, with thousands of Dominion crew members going about their duties. Reed's team moved through maintenance corridors, avoiding contact when possible and silently eliminating sentries when necessary. 300 meters to the Environmental Control Center, whispered her navigator. They encountered a patrol. In the ensuing firefight, 2 of Reed's team fell. The others pressed on, time running short as alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Finally, they reached their target. The environmental center was heavily guarded, but the humans had the element of surprise. They fought their way in at the cost of another team member. Reed reached the main air circulation system. As Dominion reinforcements poured in, she attached the virus container and activated it. The last thing she saw before a Dominion energy weapon struck her was the mist dispersing into the air system. Package deployed. She managed to transmit before everything went dark. Back on Earth, Grant received the confirmation signal. She did it, he announced to the War Council. Now we wait. Within days, reports came in of Dominion ships experiencing widespread illness. Their troops became weak, their reactions slowed, their mighty warriors reduced to struggling patients. Earth forces, coordinating with colonies from Mars to Europa, launched a simultaneous counterattack. The Dominion fleet, already weakened, found itself fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. In his command ship, Krell felt the first symptoms of the human virus. As he watched his mighty armada falling into disarray, a terrible realization dawned on him. For the first time in its 10,000-year history, the Dominion was losing a war. The war room beneath Pentagon II hummed with activity as Admiral Grant surveyed the holographic map of known space. Green indicators representing human forces pushed steadily into the red territory of the Dominion. 3 months ago, we were fighting for survival, Grant said to the assembled military leadership. Today, we're taking the fight to their doorstep. General Wilson nodded. The Andromeda colony reports that the Dominion garrison surrendered without firing a shot. Their troops are too sick to fight. "And the Centauri front?" Grant asked. "Better than expected," Colonel Petrova replied. "The local species, the Trell, joined our forces after we liberated their homeworld. They provided valuable intelligence on Dominion strongholds." This was happening throughout former Dominion space. As human forces advanced, they freed enslaved species who had suffered under the Empire's rule for centuries. Many of these aliens eagerly joined the human alliance, bringing their own unique abilities to the fight. Grant activated a new projection showing their next target. "It's time for Operation Thunderclap. We're taking the fight directly to Dominion Prime." The room fell silent. Attacking the Dominion homeworld had seemed unthinkable just weeks ago. Now it was within reach. In deep space, the newly christened UES Vengeance led a fleet of 200 ships toward the heart of Dominion territory. Captain Mike Foster stood on the bridge, remembering the Battle of Mars that had started this unexpected journey. "Status of the former Dominion vessels?" he asked his executive officer. "The crews from the Trell and Vordak species are adapting well to our combat doctrine," she replied. "They're eager to strike back at their former masters." Foster nodded. The human fleet had grown as liberated worlds contributed ships and crews. What had begun as Earth's desperate defense had transformed into a multi-species crusade against the Dominion. On Dominion Prime, the High Council gathered in emergency session. Their gleaming hall, once a symbol of unquestioned power, now felt like a mausoleum. "The outer systems are falling daily," reported the Minister of Defense, his voice weak from the human bioweapon that had spread throughout their population. "The subject species are in open revolt. Our fleet is in disarray." Grand Counselor Drex, once proud and imperious, now looked aged and defeated. "How did this happen?" "They were primitives." From the shadows, Commander Vex stepped forward. Though stripped of rank, he had been recalled as an advisor due to his experience with the humans. "I warned you," he said quietly. "Humans are different. They evolved through constant warfare. While we conquered peaceful species, they were fighting themselves for thousands of years, perfecting the art of war." "Then what hope do we have?" asked a counselor. "Sue for peace," Vex suggested. "The humans have shown mercy to worlds that surrendered." "The Dominion does not surrender," Drex shouted, though his voice cracked with the effort. A junior officer rushed into the chamber, breaking all protocol. "Counselors, human ships have entered the inner defense perimeter. They've bypassed our main fleet." On the Vengeance, Foster received a transmission from Earth. Admiral Grant's face appeared on screen. "Captain, it's time to deliver our message," Grant said. "Make sure they understand." Foster nodded and opened a channel to the Dominion capital. His transmission overrode their communications network, appearing on screens throughout the planet. "People of the Dominion," he began. "This is Captain Michael Foster of Earth. 3 months ago, your forces came to our world, threatening extinction if we didn't submit. We gave you a warning then. We told you to run." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You didn't listen. Now we stand at the threshold of your homeworld with the power to do to you what you planned for us. But we're not like you. We offer terms: your complete, unconditional surrender, the dissolution of your empire, freedom for all worlds under your control." Foster's eyes hardened. "You have 6 hours to respond. After that, we will demonstrate why we warned you to run when you had the chance." As his transmission ended, the Dominion Council sat in stunned silence. Their empire, undefeated for 10 millennia, faced its first ultimatum. Grand Counselor Drex looked around at his fellow leaders, seeing the same realization on each face. The humans had not just fought back. They had changed the galaxy forever. "Contact the human fleet," he finally said. Tell them the Dominion is prepared to discuss terms." The Grand Hall of Dominion Prime gleamed with ancient splendor as Admiral Grant walked down its center. His footsteps echoed in the unnatural silence. Behind him followed a small delegation of human officers and representatives from formerly enslaved species. At the far end sat Emperor Vorn, ruler of the Dominion for over 3 centuries. His once imposing frame now appeared withered, weakened by the human bioweapon and the shock of defeat. "So you are the humans," the Emperor said, his voice still carrying authority despite everything. "The species that broke what could not be broken." Grant stopped at the designated position. He wore a simple dress uniform with minimal decorations, contrasting sharply with the elaborate regalia of the Dominion officials. "We didn't come here to break anything," Grant replied. "We came to survive. You gave us no choice." The Emperor studied him. "In 10,000 years, no species has ever defeated the Dominion. Many fought bravely. All failed. What makes humans different?" Grant considered the question carefully. Around him stood the remnants of the Dominion High Council and military command, including Commander Vex and the now disgraced Grand Marshal Krell. "We're different because we spent our entire history fighting ourselves," Grant finally said. "While other species evolved through cooperation or dominance over simple life forms, humans evolved through constant conflict with each other." He gestured to his officers. "Every tactic we used against you, we developed fighting other humans. The guerrilla warfare, the sabotage, the psychological operations, all of it came from our own blood-soaked history." The Emperor's eyes widened slightly. "You use your own savagery as a weapon." "We used our experience," Grant corrected. "Humans fought over everything: resources, territory, religion, ideology. We became experts at war because we had so much practice. When you threatened us, we didn't have to invent new tactics. We just had to remember old ones." Krell stepped forward, his once powerful body now bent with illness. "You fought without honor." "We fought to win," Grant replied simply. "Honor is a luxury for those who aren't facing extinction." The formal surrender proceeded quickly. The Dominion ceded control of all conquered worlds. Their military was to be dismantled, their weapons destroyed or surrendered to the new Galactic Alliance that would replace their empire. As the Emperor pressed his seal to the document, he looked up at Grant. "What happens to us now? Will you do to the Dominion what we would have done to Earth?" Grant shook his head. "No. That's another difference between us. We fought because we had to, not because we wanted to. Your people will keep their homeworld and have a place in the new alliance. As equals, not rulers." 6 months later, Grant stood on a platform overlooking the newly constructed memorial of the First Contact War. Representatives from 50 formerly enslaved species gathered for the dedication ceremony. The monument showed figures from all races standing together, with an eternal flame burning at its center to honor those lost on both sides. "We gather today not to celebrate victory," Grant told the assembled crowd, "but to remember its cost, and to pledge ourselves to ensuring such a war never happens again." He gestured to the stars visible through the transparent dome overhead. "The galaxy has changed forever. The age of the Dominion is over. In its place, we build something new, not an empire ruled by force, but an alliance bound by mutual respect and the shared desire for peace." Commander Vex, now serving as the Dominion representative to the Alliance Council, approached Grant after the ceremony. "You know," Vex said quietly, "throughout the galaxy, stories are spreading about humans. When other species encounter your ships, they immediately open communications and extend friendship." "That's good," Grant replied. "That's the future we want." Vex's metal teeth clicked in what Grant had learned was a smile. "Yes, but do you know what they say to each other when humans aren't listening? They say, if you meet humans in space and they tell you to run, run." Grant looked out at the stars, thinking of all that had been lost and gained. "Let's hope nobody ever has to run again," he said. But as humanity expanded outward into the galaxy, the warning spread from world to world, becoming legend. Beware the species that mastered war by fighting itself. If humans tell you to run, you run.